Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers were one of the most memorable on-screen duos of Hollywood's golden age. Starting with 1933's Flying Down to Rio, the pair starred in a plethora of musical pictures together before parting ways near the end of the 40s. Although they found immense success together, Fred had been reluctant to enter into the creative partnership for a variety of reasons. Join Facts First as we explore why Fred Astaire fought to avoid association with Ginger Rogers. There's no denying Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers were one of the most popular on-screen duos of the golden age. This was especially true when it came to the genre of musicals. Fred Astaire had grown up as a dancer, while Ginger was an actress who found out she had a natural talent for dancing. When the two were first paired together in the 1933 feature Flying Down to Rio, their chemistry proved a hit with audiences. When Fred realized RKO Pictures were planning on pairing him with Ginger Rogers in more films, he wrote a long letter to his agent expressing he had no interest in becoming on-screen partners with Ginger Rogers or any other Hollywood star. Instead, it was Fred's intentions that he should become a star that received solo billing. There was certainly a good deal of ego involved in Fred's insistence, though the beloved professional dancer wasn't without his reasons for wanting to find his own footing in the industry. Fred had been dancing since childhood at the behest of his mother and had been forced to play second fiddle to his older sister for many years. When Fred's sister got married and retired, the star felt it was finally his time to shine in his own right. Because of this, the prospect of being paired up with another woman rubbed him the wrong way. Fred Astaire was born in Omaha, Nebraska in 1899. His father was a brewer, but his mother had aspirations of turning her children into stars. These aspirations started with Fred's older sister, who was the first of the children to be forced into dance. Fred was then ushered in to play second fiddle to his sister, and the pair found a good deal of success in both New York City and London. By the time Fred and his older sister were entering adulthood, they were making several hundreds of dollars a week, which would be several thousands when adjusted for inflation. It was in 1923 that Fred and his sister made the move from New York City to London, and his sister became married and retired within the decade. She married a nobleman named Lord Charles Cavendish in 1932, at which point Fred headed back to Broadway and starred in Gay Divorce. Many were wondering if Fred was going to have what it took to find success on his own without his sister, and Gay Divorce proved he had the capability. The show was a success. In 1933, Fred married a prominent socialite named Phyllis Potter. Phyllis was incredibly wealthy and influential. Prior to their marriage, Fred's mother had been the one presiding over her son's career. After Fred and Phyllis got married, his new wife took control. Later in 1933, a talent scout approached Fred and encouraged him to move to Hollywood. Fred asked Phyllis if she thought it was a good idea, and the two subsequently headed to California so Fred could become a Hollywood star. Not long afterwards, Flying Down to Rio was released, and Fred wrote the letter to his agent expressing his distaste with the Ginger Rogers pairing. Besides the fact that Fred might have not wanted to share the spotlight with another female performer, jealousy on Phyllis's part may have also played some role in inspiring Fred to write that letter. His first wife was notoriously controlling when it came to her husband's personal affairs, to the point where it's frequently thought that she prevented Fred and Ginger from kissing on camera. There's only one film they performed in together where they ever kissed, 1938's Carefree. According to Fred Astaire, it was his choice not to kiss Ginger Rogers on camera because he just didn't like that kind of acting. Hey, if you're enjoying this video so far, be sure to give it a like and subscribe to Facts First if you haven't already, and stick around for more about Fred and Ginger. Fred Astaire eventually accepted the fact he was going to have to remain paired with Ginger Rogers on screen. The two made pictures together for several years before taking a decade-long hiatus at the end of the 30s and reuniting at the end of the 40s to film one more picture together. At the beginning of their hiatus as a duo, Ginger appeared in the 1940 film Kitty Foyle and ended up winning an Academy Award for Best Actress. Fred had always wanted to be a big solo-billed star, and it plagued him to have to share billing with Ginger. When she was the one to find solo stardom after the end of their partnership instead of him, Fred was understandably jealous. However, he'd warmed up enough to Ginger by that point, he was able to find enjoyment in her victory. Many have speculated that Fred Astaire truly didn't like Ginger Rogers, though this wasn't likely the case. Fred had immense personal and professional respect for his longtime co-star and dancing partner. It's just that he would have preferred the chance to break out as a solo star. Besides the fact that Fred Astaire would have preferred to be his own star, Another thing that came between him and Ginger during their professional relationship was the fact that Fred was such a perfectionist. The dancer would often come up with new routines on a whim and expect Ginger to be at the studio early the next morning to master them. This perfectionism certainly paid off for the duo, as their works together remain still some of the most watched musical films in Hollywood history. Throughout their creative partnerships, Fred and Ginger performed in films such as Roberta, Top Hat, Swing Time, and The Barkleys of Broadway. The latter film represented their return to the screen after their decade-long hiatus, and it was their only feature film together that was filmed in color. Although Fred and Ginger didn't first appear on the screen together until 1933, they had worked together on Broadway previously. In 1930, Fred had choreographed Ginger in a Broadway play called Girl Crazy. Fred was single at the time, and he and Ginger apparently went on a date during this period. Although not much came of this date, Ginger expressed later in life that the two had shared a very memorable kiss at the end of it. The stars likely thought back to this kiss when summoning the chemistry for their on-screen appearances, and it's possible Phyllis might have been aware of their romantic history when she insisted the pair never kiss on film. Fred Astaire divorced his first wife Phyllis Potter in 1954 and only remarried once before his death in '87. His second wife was a jockey named Robin Smith, to whom he was married from 1980 until his death. Ginger Rogers, on the other hand, was married 5 times over the course of her life before her death in 1995. Her first husband was a fellow star named Jack Pepper, who she married in 1929. They divorced 2 years later in 1931. During most of her creative partnership with Fred Astaire, Ginger was married to second husband Lou Ayres. She married Lou in 1934, and they divorced in '40. Lou was an actor, although not as successful as his wife. Ginger was then married to actor Jack Briggs from 1943 to '49, actor Jacques Bergerac from '53 to '57, and William Marshall from 1961 to '69. Besides her 5 husbands, Ginger Rogers was also romantically linked to notable celebrity figures Jimmy Stewart and Howard Hughes. She reportedly had a fling with Stewart after divorcing her second husband. Jimmy went on to claim that Ginger was the first woman he had ever been with. Howard Hughes apparently took a liking to Ginger in the early 30s, in between her first and second marriages. Ginger became afraid of the peculiar wealthy socialite after he started becoming a bit too controlling in their relationship. Of all the men Ginger was linked to throughout her life, it seems few were there for her as consistently as Fred Astaire. This remains true even if Fred reluctantly entered into their creative partnership, and even if he worked her to the bone when it came to their routines on screen. Today, people still look back on the work of Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers with astonishment, and their films remain incredibly popular and acclaimed. Now it's time to hear from you. Did you know Fred Astaire was pushed into show business at the behest of his mother? Let us know in the comments section below. And before you go, make sure you give this video a like and subscribe to Facts Verse if you haven't already. Click the bell icon to stay updated on all our latest content.